Hello everyone, bringing you part 2 today of a series considering Canada's 1964 patent web equipment. What we're going to be looking at in the video today is the various components we looked at in part 1 on the mannequin in more detail, so looking at the fixtures and fittings and so forth. The mannequin here, however, is a little bit of a teaser. We'll be looking at the web equipment as it's set up here in part 3, which is a bit more typical of its actual use in the field, whereas the previous video was looking at the equipment as per a studio photograph to allow all the components to be shown. But as I say, this is a little bit more typical of what you would see in the field in the late 1970s, early 1980s. So we'll be having a look at this in part 3. But part 2, we're going to have a look at the various components in more detail now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is the waist belt from the web equipment. It's about as simple as it's possible to make a waist belt that adjusts at both ends. You can see here that is achieved by Velcro at both ends. It's literally a strip of 2-inch webbing with Velcro on the back that doubles over, and then a very simple plastic buckle, moulded plastic buckle. So it's about as simple as it's possible to get in terms of belt design, I suppose. There's no actual fixtures or fittings on it at all. Just pieces of Velcro stitched on the back. So you have a large piece of the hooked Velcro on one end there, and then a long thinner strip of the soft Velcro there for it to attach to, and exactly the same on the other side. The webbing isn't doubled over at the end, it's literally just doped to stop it from fraying too much. Again, as simple as it's possible to get there, really. A very rudimentary way of protecting the rough edges, the rough ends. And the buckle, I'll show this the correct way around. The buckle is a very simple affair. It just pushes together, so this, you can see there, it's two pieces that this piece slots between, and there's two holes in the back there and two corresponding sort of tapered studs on the back there, if you want to call them that. And when you push it together, they lock in to there. So you've got a secure fixing at the front there. A very simple design, somewhat similar to the buckle you later used on Alice, but it unfastens in a different manner. You push it together and twist, and it comes apart like that. So very, very simple, just a push lock, and there it is, locked together, and that's it. That is the belt. There's nothing more to that. As I say, very rudimentary, but as far as the designers were concerned, I'm sure it did the job. The next part of the equipment we'll consider are the suspenders. Obviously the next sort of crucial part of the kit. You've got the belt, you need something to support it when it's loaded up with stuff. So you have the suspenders here. They take a Y form, obviously due to the necking down to a single strap supporting the back of the belt there. So you have two belt loops for the front and then one for the center at the rear. And again, very, very simple design. Big chunky plastic, molded plastic buckles, as you can see there. And then the loop here, which attaches the belt loop at the end there, is also a piece of plastic. Very thin, flimsy piece over the back there, just to hold the Y section together over the shoulders. And then, obviously, the same at the back. You've got the plastic buckle there and the plastic loop attaching the belt loops. The belt loops are very, very simple. You have a piece which hooks around the belt with the hooked section of the touch and close the Velcro fastening on. And then the soft is on this separate short section here that just attaches onto the back. So if I bring the belt in here and quickly demonstrate this, you hook, bring the brace down, bring the suspender down, loop that round the back there. I flip this over, you can see, loop the hooked section over the back there, and then just press that onto there. Not the best way of doing things, and as we'll see in the next video, this was modified to make it more secure, or augmented to make it more secure, let's say. So there we are. That's the suspenders from the equipment set. As I say, very flimsy like the rest of it. Obviously very thin. So obviously the equipment's not designed to carry very much weight, but even for the weight carried, having just these 1-inch sections over the shoulders, not ideal by any means. But that's the suspenders they went with. So the next thing we'll look at here is the Bayonet Frog used with the equipment. I understand this actually predates 1964 pattern. The frog had been introduced to allow the bladed bayonet used with the C1 to be carried with the 1951 pattern equipment. The original 1951 pattern Bayonet Frog being too narrow. It was designed to take the spike bayonet for the number 4, so a wider frog was needed when you want to carry a bayonet with a blade and a wider scabbard. You can see the construction here. It's a loop of webbing to form a belt loop here, and then between these two pieces you've got the loops stitched which form the buttonhole into which the stud for the bayonet scabbard fits to hold it in place. And in form this basically dates back to the economy versions of the 1908 pattern Bayonet Frog, although it is smaller. It's very, very similar, and as I say, the design is no more advanced than that. The frog is carrying the scabbard in the same way. So if I bring in a bayonet here, this is a British bayonet, but for purpose of illustration you can see the stud on the scabbard there, and that fits in between the two pieces of webbing here to hold the scabbard securely in place. And here you can see the bayonet in the frog, and you can just see how the stud on the scabbard slots neatly in between the two loops there and secures the scabbard within the frog. So very simple, as I say, basically standard for British Commonwealth practice, I guess you could say. This carrier, this frog, essentially in form really dates back to the 1908 pattern equipment. As I say, it's slightly different size, but the construction and the way it works is basically exactly the same. The next thing we'll look at is the closest thing to an ammunition pouch, which was designed as part of the equipment. Obviously, the 1951 pattern pouches would be used with this for want of anything else. This is the grenade pouch, as we said in the previous video, and as pointed out there, underneath we have a Velcro loop, and this holds the adapter, which allows hand grenades to be used as rifle grenades. So obviously you prop your hand grenade in the top here, and then you have the stem and fin section for launching from a rifle grenade adapter, and that means obviously you've created a rifle grenade out of a hand grenade using this assembly. We just look, this is a US adapter grenade projection M1A2, this particular example, 1944 modified 1969. So that's that there, and obviously you have this big loop on the bottom with the Velcro fastenings, basically exactly the same as the belt loop on the back. So you pass the belt through there, fold in the soft section of Velcro, fold in the hook section on top, and that's the way it attaches to the belt. As simple as that. Obviously, plastic version of the quick release on the front here, as you can see. There we go. Basically in British style, something introduced on the basic pouches of the 1937 pattern web equipment during the Second World War in British manufacture, used on the 1944 pattern. Canada used it on the 1951 pattern, and then it's been carried across and made in plastic for the 1964 pattern. But basically the standard quick release design. If we open this up, you can see inside, these are two relatively naff reproductions, but M26 grenades comfortably hold a couple of those in there, as you can see, and a very simple design of pouch from that point of view. Just pull one of these out. You can see how this would, it's a plastic example, so I don't really want to slot it all the way in, but you can see how the spoon of the grenade fits in that bracket there, and it would slot into the launcher there, the adapter rather. So that's how that operates. But that's what these are designed to carry. There's a couple of those. It will also carry 4 of the V40. I think they are the Dutch-made small, well, they're referred to as mini frags in slang terms in the US force. I'm not sure if Canada used that term as well, but they're about the size of a golf ball, and you fit 4 of those in there quite neatly. They weren't in service for all that long, but they will fit in here quite neatly. So there we are. M26s will fit in there neatly. So that's really what it's designed for, is a couple of these. And that's the grenade pouch. Here we have another pouch, and this is what was initially designed as a mess tin pouch, and it contains mess tins here to show they do indeed fit. Latterly it was used as something of a utility pouch, carry waterproofs, that sort of thing. But it will take a pair of Canadian mess tins, which is what we have in it here, as I say, just to show they fit. They do fit in there. It's quite a tight fit, however, so it's a little bit of wrestling with the quick release. Don't know if this one has shrunk, but it does work. Just that's in there. There we go. So we'll hold a pair of mess tins, essentially analogous to the 1951 pattern mess tin pouch in form, obviously just with the quick release now in plastic rather than having metal fittings. We've lost the buckles off the side, obviously not part of this set of equipment. And if we turn this over here, you can see the standard fitting on the back for attaching it to the belt, the Velcro belt loop. Again, this video unfortunately is going to be full of Velcro noise, but there we are. Archer, I believe the same markings on the belt of this, so this came as something of a set together. The components we're looking at here, which is nice. But obviously pass the belt through here, soft side of the Velcro goes down, and then just attach the hooked section over the top like that, and that will attach it to the belt, not particularly securely. Again, as already said, this is something that would have to be tinkered with in the field to actually get stuff to stay on the belt. As has been mentioned in comments and so forth, when Velcro gets wet, that's something I've experienced myself camping and so forth, it doesn't work as effectively. And also in the field, if you happen to get muck and stuff in, you know, if something does fall off and picks up bits and pieces in the hooked section of the Velcro, again, that also reduces its effectiveness. And as it's used over the years, Velcro also loses its effectiveness. So it's not an ideal fastening for this sort of application where you're carrying a load and it's going to be bouncing around and moving on the belt whilst the soldier's moving, and getting wet and so forth, obviously in the field. Not ideal. But that's originally the messed-in pouch, latterly used as something of a utility pouch, as I say. That's that part of the equipment. The next component we'll look at here is the Canteen Carrier, and this is essentially a copy of the USM 1956. However, we do have the standard fitting on the back, the belt loops with Velcro to attach to the belt, standard. And again, we have Archer's name there. I don't believe it's on the Suspenders or the Entrenching tool carrier, but it is on all the other bits, which is I remember, which is quite nice to say, all one set together, which is quite nice. Obviously, snaps or press studs now instead of the lift the dock, which was found on the 1951 pattern. Otherwise, this is essentially analogous to the 1951 pattern. Canada, with the 1951 pattern, decided to copy American practice, and they basically followed that here. Open this up. I'll just remove this. This is a Canadian bottle in a US aluminium cup, actually, in this instance. It's a 70s, made in Canada, 1972 bottle. Obviously, that's not named to the same chap, but nevertheless, nice to have a Canadian-made example. And inside here, you can see the felt lining, which is fairly standard for this type of carrier. You can see around the back there. Just a rough felt lining, the same sort of thing you'd find in carpet underlay, basically. So that's some details of the construction there, you can see. Just give you a full look around this. No drainage or anything in the bottom, of course. As I say, basically copied from the M1956 in that regard, stitching down the front and everything. Essentially a US carrier, but with the Canadian fitting on the back to attach to the belt. Okay, the next thing to look at here is the Entrenching tool carrier. And again, it's essentially based on US practice. It has to be, because the entrenching tool itself is based on US practice. This is a US made example. Canada also made these. It's a copy of the M1951. If I open this up here, I'll remove the entrenching tool so we can have a look at the carrier on its own. Just to look at this briefly, if I spin this round here, you see the stamp there. Appropriately enough, dated 1964. So that's a US entrenching tool there. The carrier for it is a simplified version of US practice. We don't have an actual flap. Obviously the US carrier, the M1956 carrier, which is kind of analogous to this in this time period, obviously had a flap and a press stud or a snap at the front, and obviously fittings for a bayonet and so forth. This is the cover in form. Obviously has to be to take the head of the entrenching tool, but we simply have a webbing strap with the quick release on the front there. So the standard fittings for the 1964 pattern, basically, using the plastic quick release, plastic version of the quick release there. Two small pieces of leather to protect the edge there from the blade sliding in and out, to obviously stop that wearing away there. That's a feature of most of this type of entrenching tool carrier for this particular type of entrenching tool, irrespective of the nation using it. The reinforcement on the cover there is obviously necessary to stop the blade wearing away at the webbing. This is one of the few items with a clear stamp, and we can see on the back there, Textra Industries Limited, December 1965. If we move that around there and get the light on it, you can see. So it's a relatively early dated piece of this equipment, all edged, as you can see. This waterproof sort of finish to the material, and again the belt loop on the back. In this instance, obviously we don't have the name. This was bought separately from the rest of the bits and pieces. We don't have the name written under there, but nevertheless that completes the sort of basic belt kit. The next bit, of course, to have a look at is the respirator sack. As opposed to in part one where it was shown attached to the belt of the equipment, this has its own carrying straps attached, and we'll have a look at those first. Around the back here you can see the Velcro belt loops, which allow this to be attached to the belt or attached to the carrying assembly. We have here the carrying harness, carrying straps. We have one shoulder strap here, which, as you can see, has a single plastic buckle here. Attaches to this waist strap using these two plastic rings here. And my understanding is that you're supposed to Velcro these loops through these to stop the carrier sliding around on the waist strap. However, I have seen photographs of these just looped around the strap, not through the buckle, or not through this plastic ring rather. If I just remove this from the carrier, you can see the design a little more clearly. You can see the shoulder strap attaches onto these, so it's almost a separate waist belt with a sort of almost a Sam Brown effect of having one shoulder strap going over the shoulder. The waist strap itself also has a plastic buckle for adjustment, and the plastic hook here, which is found on other components such as the C2 magazine carrier, and that just hooks into the D-ring there on the end, and that's how it fastens around the waist. So very simple. And as I say, that assembly allows this to be carried separately, so even if the web equipment is removed, you have your haversack with the respirator inside it with you at all times. Considering the carrier itself, we'll have a look at the external stowage for the various bits and pieces first. I don't have a full set of contents for this. I would like to get something close to a full set of contents together at some point in the future. On this face here, the outer face, we have an external pocket, or a series of external pockets, which allow, well, there's two, you can see the stitching here for two smaller pockets at the front here, which contain books of protector paper. These are Canadian issue, but they're relatively modern, I believe. But you can see the details on the front there. And then there's a larger compartment behind, which I believe is for part of the decontamination kit. And then to the rear here, there's another little pouch with a hand little pull tab. Easy to manipulate that using when you're wearing gloves. You can see in here there are loops for the atropine injectors. If I get the light in there, you can see the loops stitched in there, the atropine injectors. So that's that little pouch there with Velcro again, obviously snaps or press studs to keep this one closed, this set of little pockets at the front here. And then we have the main compartment. Now this rolls, the opening on this rolls to close and then Velcros in place. Nice big pull tab here, comes undone, and this just unrolls, and we actually have a stiffened section here in this lip of the opening so that can be folded and rolled up, which is a good way of keeping it weather tight. So it works quite simply and effectively. Now in the main compartment we have C3 respirator in this instance. I don't have the canister attached to this because I tend to store it with the canister separately so as not to damage the face piece. Unfortunately this one is a bit damaged, a little bit fragile. It's a 70s example, but there it is with canister attached. And as you can see, this is the development of a light anti-gas respirator, and it's something I will consider in a future video in more detail, but it's not the focus of this video today. The main part of the carrier is just one big open compartment. If I get the light in there, we can see just one big open compartment in there, ample to carry the face piece and the canister of the respirator. So from that point of view, a good design in that it works effectively, and I believe the canister would be the respirator would be carried face piece outwards. So the eyepiece is here and the mouthpiece here, the exhale valve, and it would be withdrawn and easily donned from that point of view. So it would sit inside like that, I believe. So happy to be corrected on that, but that's my understanding of the reading of the literature of the time regarding this. But that's the respirator carrier from the set. So there we are. That was a look at the basic components of 1964 pattern in a bit more detail. There will be a future video hopefully looking at things like the C2 magazine carrier, the compass pouch and the holster. Hopefully make a video looking at those. That'll probably be a part 4 to the series. As said at the start of the video, part 3 will be considering the equipment as it's set up on the mannequin here in a bit more detail. If you'd like to see that, then please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you've previously subscribed or you're newly subscribing, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the little notification button down below, which of course will alert you when I upload future videos, including further parts in this series. If you really like my uploads and you'd like to support the channel, you can. There's Patreon and PayPal linked down below, and a massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It's greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. There's Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch with me but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. But that's everything I wanted to cover in this video, so until next time, bye for now.